I have been waiting for this for a very, very long time. I mean, it hasn't been that long. It's been like a year, but still, I've been pretty excited about this. And this is a Neat Review issue 5. So I guess let's do a Neat Review. That's the dumbest joke I've ever made in a long time. But if you're asking me why I'm starting with issue 5, it's because, well, first off, I don't have issue 1, and also issue 5 just released, so I might as well just do a review of issue 5. So, you know, yeah, might as well. But I guess we need to provide some proper backstory behind what is the Neat Review and why I'm pretty excited about it. So Neat Review is a magic journal, so it's not your traditional magic book where it just describes like methods and whatnot. So it's a magic journal, and it's a series started by the one and only London-based magician Alex Hansford. So just as a fun fact, one of the first magic downloads that I actually got was actually a download called Goodell. I think that's how you pronounce it, by Alex Hansford. And it's actually a color change in between of 2 playing cards. So it's actually like a sandwich, sort of a color change that happens in between of a sandwich. But because I was still like a beginner back then, I sucked and I couldn't do it, and I gave up on it. And it's only been like really recent that I start to try and pick it back up. But yeah, it's been I have some history, I guess, with it, but that's sort of besides the point. So Neat Review is, as described in their website, is a long-form print-only art journal exploring the crossovers between art and magic. So yeah, I would say that they're pretty successful at doing that. So they basically feature magic effects, sleights, magic theory, interviews with magicians from all around the world. So that is really cool. And they basically feature them in an artistic manner with like photographs and yeah, really cool design here and there. So yeah, it's generally a pretty cool way to feature magic. So I'll go over all the issues. So issue 1 was released in 2019, and it featured magicians from London. So that's where Alex Hansford was. So I assumed that was the easiest way to interview people. So yeah. Issue 2 was in New York. So that was also released in 2019. Issue 3 was in Tokyo, so Tokyo-based magicians, pretty cool. And then they had a hiatus because of a certain virus, so I'm not going to go too deeply into that, but that's a thing. Issue 4 was magicians from basically everywhere, and that was released in 2022, so that was after the that thing, right? Apparently there's like a notice if you say it like beneath of your video, and I don't want that beneath of my video, so I'm not going to mention it. But yeah, and issue 5 was released this year, and it features magicians from good old Paris, or Paris if you're Anglophone. But yeah, but they also released some other books. So this includes Double Lift by Andrew Frost, so another London-based magician. You might know him more under the name of Slightly Obsessed on Instagram. He's a great sleight of hand artist and just a great magician in general. There's Often Rarely That Simple, which is a book by Alex Hansford, and that was material by him that wasn't published until now. There's also Magic as Medium by Sean D'Souza. Was it Colho? I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I butcher it. There's also Mainspring by, again, Alex Hansford. Splay by Brad Fulton and the Buck Twins, so Dan and Dave Buck. There's also Notes from a Fellow Traveler by Darren Brown. They also released like decks and tote bags, and they also organized events. So this year, their first event, that was their first event, and they called it NeatCon. Not a good name, I have to admit, but it's cool that they're organizing events, and the first one was in London, so that is pretty cool. So there's a couple of features for this book that I think are pretty noteworthy. So the first thing is that it's 272 pages. So even though they say it's a journal, I would say it's a pretty hefty journal over here. So it's a hefty boy. It is soft cover, so you won't have like a hard cover. It's soft, but I don't think it really matters that much. I mean, it's already pretty heavy, so if it gets like a hard cover, it'll be like a brick. So, you know, whether it's soft cover or not, it doesn't really matter for me. I mean, you know, books are meant to be read and destroyed, so softcover doesn't really matter for me as much. It also features a bunch of artistic design and photography, and you'll see what I mean with the screenshots well, not the screenshots, but the photography that's on screen right now. It also features magicians from Paris, as I mentioned above, right? The Parisian magicians, and it cost 35 pounds, British pounds. So so if I not translate it, but if I convert it, there we go. If I convert that amount to US, that would be about 44.94 USD dollars. USD dollars, that's USD, right? And there's only 1,000 copies printed, so if you want one, then you better pick it up, because there's only 1,000 of these, basically the same print run of some decks of cards. So that's that. So I'll go over the contents of the book. So it features magic from Arthur Chavaudret, Alice Payet, Manujo, I can't pronounce that in French, I'm not even sure that's even French, Mel Adler, Father Alex, Bebel, Johan Fontaine. So those are the magicians that are featured in this journal, or in this book. So I'll go over the list of contents that in chronological order. So Bebel talks about street magic, improvisation, and basically his dedication towards the craft and art of magic. Mel Adler talks about a triumph routine, and during the triumph he actually finds the 4 aces, so that's kind of cool. Father Alex, who is an actual father, so he is an actual, I'm not even sure if this is the correct terminology, but he is an actual priest. So he talks about his life and whether magic and his faith actually contradict with one another, which is actually kind of cool, because I guess it's really it's interesting to sort of get that sort of perspective. So I do kind of like that section. And actually had a gambling magic phase. So I discovered Father Alex during that time, and I learned a couple of mucks from him. But I eventually phased that out, but that's just me going on the tangent. So yeah. But Father Alex also talks about a finesse on an Erdnase top stock retention false cut, right? So he talks about that. So it's a variation of an Erdnase thing, which is fine, right? I mean, Erdnase is cool, I guess. Manuja talks about an effect where he places the aces in 4 different places. And then when he takes those aces back out again, they turn into kings. And then, he jokes about it. And then, the aces actually, the aces turn into the kings non-visually. And then after some time, the aces are found in the places where he originally placed them. And then the kings fuse together to form the last ace. So that's basically, it's not really like a proper effect, but the way that's described in the book is it's like a very offbeat, casual thing that he's just presenting. So that's something that he sort of presents. Arthur Chavaudret talks about new magic. I'm not going to talk too much about it, because that's the entire section of the book, so I'm not going to describe what it is, but he talks about new magic. Johan Fontaine talks about an ace production, and also how that leads into a Hofzinser twisting routine. So if you're not sure what a Hofzinser twisting routine is, it's basically a king is selected from the 4 kings, right? So he produced the aces in advance, right? The ace, which has the selections matching suit, is reversed, and then all the aces turn into the kings. So that's the basic premise of the Hofzinser twisting routine. And then Alice Payet talks about the psychology of forcing. So those are all the sections of the book. So yeah, so there are a couple of pros that obviously, as I'm reviewing this, it's obviously there's pros for everything that I review. So like any Alex Hansford product, this is well made. With the amount of you can tell that a lot of work went into this, especially with all the photography, the edits, right, the typography and whatnot. There's a lot of effort that went to this, and it's not like it's a badly produced book, right? I mean, it's pretty good, for all the quality and whatnot. So honestly, especially the Paris on the long edge of the book, it's pretty cool. So generally, this is a pretty well-made book, right? Yeah, again, like I said, it features like beautiful artwork with like great designs and whatnot. And also, it features great magic. I mean, this is magic that a lot of people aren't exposed to because people from Paris don't really speak English, so they can't really interact with the outside world, right? And because they can't interact with the outside world, the chances of them like presenting their material outside is pretty slim. So the fact that Alex Hansford gave them a chance to present their material, I mean, I thoroughly appreciate it. I mean, even like I'm sure that for more experienced magicians, you'll recognize names like Alice Payet or Manigeau or Bebel or Johan Fontaine, right? So those are people that I think people might recognize, but they aren't familiar with them because, again, they're in a space where they don't really interact with the outside world. Well, the outside world of magic, I guess. I don't want to make them sound like they're isolated or anything, but they're in a space where they don't interact with the other magic communities. So having a chance to really read up on some of their stories and some of their material is, I think it's a great thing. So, you know, I genuinely appreciate that part of the NEAT review where I can like, you know different communities in magic. So that is really cool. Now, with that said, there are a couple of cons that I want to say. Yeah, so there's a lot of filler pages. Like there's quite a bit of filler pages. I mean, I obviously expected like I guess that this is like I'll get into that later, but there's quite a lot of filler pages. Like there's like empty fields of ink, and there's also like there's so many recolors of the Dearmer's back design. So if you don't know, the Dearmer's were a deck of playing cards produced by the NEAT review using a painting by Kez Dearmer, who is a friend of Alex Hansford. But there's a lot of recolors of the Dearmers in this book for some reason. They don't really add much to the book anyways. I get like, okay, I'll get into that later. There's also a bunch of annoying like justified text lines. So if you don't know what justified text is when the margins for the text boxes are all like equal. So sometimes when the text is justified, there's these huge gaps between words just so then the margins are all equal. So that becomes very, very annoying, especially because I'll try and show like some text. So especially because like you read from, there's two sections, right? So you read from top to bottom and then you go out top to bottom again. So block 1 and block 2 are kind of close together. So because the text is all justified, it sort of makes it really hard to read too. And because of because it's justified, some texts have like huge blocks of space in between. It makes it like sort of annoying to read as well. There's also for some reason Mel Adler's Triumph section is in French, and the only explanation is the only understandable explanation, I guess, for some people would be the images, but the images don't really describe the process. They don't really describe the effect in too much detail. So if you're someone who doesn't understand French, you're going to have a hard time because you're going to need to use a machine translation. And yeah, it's just like why would you ever need, like, I guess it's for artistic like intent, but also I think that some of the typography decisions would make translating this a bit hard too. So yeah, I think if you're someone who doesn't read French, this section would be really detrimental. So that would be really annoying as well. So overall, like I get that this is also part art journal, but in some ways it's detrimental to the overall reading experience, which is just really annoying. Like it's fine for me because I can read French, right, for Mel Adler's section, but but just little things like the justified text and also like the filler pages, it does sort of break up the flow of reading, I think, which is sort of the annoying part. But that's just like, yeah, I mean, I like in the end, like I guess I get why they're doing it, but also it's sort of annoying. Like one of the first things that I learned in design is that the design has a purpose, right? Design has a purpose. It has a clear message that it wants to convey. Design isn't necessarily art, but here the art is more or less design, and the fact that the art and slash design is impeding with my overall reading experience and the overall purpose of an art journal or magic journal is sort of, I don't know, it's sort of like a misstep, I guess, on Alex Hansford's part. But I mean, besides that, I don't really have like that big of a complaint for the material and whatnot. It's just like overall reading experience, I think, was sort of annoying. So, but yeah, let's move on to the general review. I mean, it's what you expect from a neat review issue. It's filled with art, it's filled with magic, it's filled with a diverse cast of people. And honestly, £30 for 272 pages of an art journal is pretty good, even though a lot of those are like filler, I guess. Right? It still contains a lot of knowledge from various magicians who don't have the chance to shine all the time, right? And also it's an independent production, so it's not backed by any magic company or any printing company. So the fact that it's £35 for a printing of 1,000, it's pretty good. Like it's honestly pretty good. Again, there are some drawbacks to it, but overall I genuinely enjoyed it. Like, I wouldn't say it's my favorite magic book because, it's a journal, but it does take a unique approach, especially in the way it formats and present things, that I want that I want like more magic books to take, because reading so much dry text is so boring. Like, you have no idea how like torturous it is to read all this, but having so many images, so much fun stuff in a magic book is genuinely like refreshing, and having that is great, especially in this book. So it's I, besides like the few complaints I had, I don't really mind it, but yeah, it wouldn't be my favorite magic book regardless. But yeah, it's also a great reminder that there's more to just magic than just methods, right? I mean, with the amount of interviews and whatnot in these sort of books, right? Magic is fun. It's supposed to be fun, and there's communities around magic. So I think that this is a great reminder to people that magic is fun, and you should never do magic alone. Try and find like a community and whatnot, and you'll see that there's a lot more to magic than just performing to just methods and whatnot. So this is a different look at magic through a different lens, and I genuinely do appreciate it. So yeah, one thing that I do hate though is that I was like, yeah, Babel, yeah, man, Babel's such a great sleight of hand artist, and then he doesn't teach anything. I was like, oh dang it, no Babel stuff, crap. But still, I do appreciate Babel's knowledge regardless of whether or not he teaches anything. But still, I would have liked to learn a couple of Babel things, even though he has like downloads. But yeah, overall, no complaints, and overall, I would still recommend it. So yeah. So yeah, final thoughts. It's an Alex Hansford produced book, so you basically already know what you're getting into for people who are already familiar with the neat review. I wouldn't recommend it for beginners though, because I guarantee that they're going to be bored of all the interviews and whatnot, and they're either not going to understand some like the more like artistic depictions of the explanations, so I guess they're just going to like move on with it. So I wouldn't suggest this for beginners. So I would more suggest it for like intermediate magicians and whatnot who would actually pay attention to this material, and who would actually want to just have something that looks nice first of all, but also contains like a good part of a good like bunch of knowledge, right? Especially from magicians who aren't normally represented. But yeah, I can't wait for issue 6. And yeah, I can't wait to see some of the other stuff that Alex Hansford is cooking. Especially because he doesn't only produce Neat Review. So yeah, I can't wait for more books to come out, because I am a big fan of his style, even though there are some drawbacks to it. But overall, yeah, we'll have to wait until next year for the next issue, so that's fine. But besides that, thanks for hanging out with me. Stay healthy, stay safe, and see you on in the next video, I guess.